For spine-chilling true stories of sinister trespassers, discover the cursed secrets revealed. The Johnson family had always felt secure in their suburban haven. Mark, a dedicated father, wore a smile as he managed the local hardware store, while Sarah kept the rhythm of their family life steady. Their evenings were filled with laughter, the aromatic scent of grilled burgers wafting through their yard, where their two kids chased fireflies amidst cheerful giggles. That warmth shattered one disquieting night when strange footprints appeared on their porch, massive, claw-like imprints, leading directly to their door. The shadows cast by the porch light created an eerie tableau. Shrugging it off as a neighborhood prank, they tucked their kids into bed, blissfully unaware of the sinister presence lurking nearby. Following that unsettling night, their tranquility erupted into chaos. Muffled knockings resonated at odd hours, chilling the air within the house. Mark squinted through the windows, spotting shadowy shapes darting to the edges of their yard, melted silhouettes that scratched against the darkness and vanished. He tried to shake it off, but hairs on the back of his neck would prickle with fear as he recalled the ominous whispers of neighbors recounting how their pets had mysteriously disappeared. What was happening around them? He approached the local police for help, but they raised eyebrows, dismissing his concerns with casual indifference. "You're just overreacting, sir," they said, waving him off. Instead of relief, a cold knot of isolation tightened in Mark's gut. Desperate for answers, he began digging into the history of his neighborhood. He stumbled upon a patchwork of tales: families plagued by shadows, pets gone, neighbors turning against each other, all linked by the whispered word of trespassers. An unease crept over him as he pieced together the legacy of dread that spoke of beings haunting these streets for generations. His heart pounded, realizing their idyllic lives hid a darker, more terrifying truth beneath its surface. As paranoia seeped into Mark's bones, he focused on Mrs. Whitaker, the local librarian. Her ancient novels and ghost stories had intrigued him over the years, but now her enthusiasm about folklore sent a chill down his spine. He casually asked her questions at first, but every detail she shared about dark rituals and ancient spirits left him feeling like he was peeling back layers of an unfathomable threat. It was as if she were calling upon forces that preyed on families like his, bringing nightmare upon nightmare. On a threatening stormy night, Mark heard soft whispers fluttering through his children's bedroom door. The shadows felt closer than ever. Panic seized him as he recalled Mrs. Whitaker's enigmatic smile, that devilish glint in her eye. He steeled himself, heart racing, gripping the banister as he headed for her house, breathless with a primal fear. Did she hold the key to these terrors? Mark faced a choice: a confrontation steeped in age-old horrors, or the potential loss of everything he held dear. Inches from the unknown, with howling winds echoing outside, he found himself at the crossroads, trapped in the web of silence and dread. Who could he trust in this veiled community of secrets? The darkness loomed, ready to snatch away what was precious, leaving him fighting against invisible forces determined to break apart his family. The rain lashed against the windows, each drop a reminder of the brewing storm outside. Mark approached Mrs. Whitaker's door, each footstep echoing in the eerie stillness. The shadows felt alive, writhing just out of view. He hesitated, considering the weight of what he was about to uncover. He knocked, the sound swallowed by the tempest. A moment passed before he heard shuffling from within, followed by a slow, deliberate creak of the door. Mrs. Whitaker stood there, her silhouette framed by flickering candlelight. Her eyes glinted, not from the glow, but with something deeper, something ancient. "Mark," she said, her voice a low murmur. "I've been expecting you." "Expecting me?" He stumbled over his words. "Something is wrong in our neighborhood. The footprints, the noises, is it connected to?" "It's more than you realize," she interjected, a hint of urgency in her tone. "There's a reason they come. And it's connected to your family." Panic washed over him like the rain outside. "My family? What do you mean?" "The chant the night of the solstice," she whispered, drawing him closer. "Those who don't follow the rituals are marked. It's an ancient pact that binds this community, a dark legacy that demands its price." Mark's heart raced. "What price? What do they want?" They take from us what's most cherished, she continued, her voice trembling. Your children could be in danger. I can help, but you must be willing to confront the darkness. Just then, a sharp crack of thunder broke through the night, causing Mark to flinch. He was suddenly overwhelmed by a vision of his children, the laughter that once filled his home now replaced by cries of terror. What do we need to do? He asked, desperation lacing his words. Mrs. Whitaker smiled, but the warmth did not reach her eyes. We must perform the lament before the moon rises high. It's our only chance to protect them and to break the curse that binds this town. But the ritual demands a sacrifice. Fear twisted in his gut. What kind of sacrifice? Your fear, she replied, stepping back into the dim light of her home, beckoning him to follow. You must face the truth of what lurks within. The darkness will not retreat until you confront it. Only then can you save your family. As she led him deeper into her home, Mark felt the weight of dread settle around him like a fog, thick and unyielding. Shadows danced in the corners, whispering secrets he didn't want to hear. What if I can't? He whispered, barely able to form the words. Mrs. Whitaker paused, casting a long glance back at him. Then they will come for you, Mark. They will come for everything you hold dear. Mark's resolve began to shatter, but he fought to hold it together. With the storm raging outside, the walls seemed to close in around him, a claustrophobic reminder of his impending fate. A soft yet unsettling sound began echoing from the other room, a rhythm that felt almost like chanting. Mark's heart lurched. Was it truly ancient voices rising to claim what was theirs? He closed his eyes, steeling himself against creeping terror. He had to confront the truth. The truth about his neighborhood, about Mrs. Whitaker, and about the lurking shadows that demanded a sacrifice. But as he turned to face her, a sudden crash echoed from his house, shaking the very foundation of the moment. His children's laughter suddenly ceased, replaced by eerie silence. What had happened? Fear clawed at his throat. He had a choice: continue down this dark path, or rush back to face what awaited him at home. But when he caught the glint in Mrs. Whitaker's eye again, he knew he wasn't ready to give up. The next step was looming, and it taunted him with a terrible promise. He might not be able to return. With racing thoughts and a gripped heart, he asked the chilling question that demanded an answer. What happens if I don't do this? The silence hung thick between them, heavy with what remained unspoken. Without another word, Mrs. Whitaker turned, leading Mark into the darkened depths of her home. The air around him grew colder, making every breath a visible mist. Shadows loomed large, curling at the corners of the aged wallpaper, and the flickering candlelight illuminated faces that were not there. You must understand, fear can be a great weapon, she said, her voice now a mere whisper that seemed to echo in the silence. Mark felt a chill run down his spine, as if something cold had crawled over his skin. Searching, they entered a room filled with strange artifacts, trinkets and relics, each holding the essence of the forgotten rituals of old. In the center of the room stood a small table, draped in a dark cloth that seemed to absorb the light. The chanting had grown clearer, a rhythmic sound resembling a heartbeat, synchronized with each pulse of fear that raced through him. What are we going to do? Mark finally asked, his voice breaking. Invoke the lament, she said, looking into his eyes with a fierce intensity. But first, you must face what you dread most. She reached for a small dagger, its blade glimmering ominously. You must cut the bond of your fear from your heart. This is the sacrifice. His stomach dropped. You can't be serious. Do you wish to save your children? The darkness cannot be appeased by words alone. It demands a testimony of your courage. It felt as if the room constricted around him, the weight of Mrs. Whitaker's demand pressing against his chest. He hesitated, imagining all that he would sacrifice if he went through with this grisly task. But then, he thought of their laughter, of their small faces lit with joy, both innocent and oblivious to the danger lurking in the shadows of their home. With a deep breath, he reached out for the dagger. Its handle was cold, the weight of it heavy in his hand. As he steadied his breath, he heard a shriek echo through the walls, his children's voices, terrified, calling out for him to save them. Rage mixed with fear surged through him. How could he let them suffer? Do it. Now. Mrs. Whitaker urged, gesturing towards a mirror that loomed behind him, virtue cracked and darkened, reflecting a twisted version of himself. Mark's heart hammered wildly, and he raised the dagger, shaking. In that moment, shadows sprang forth from the edges of the room, elongating, reaching towards him, whispering his deepest fears. The scene around him warped, becoming chaotic as a gust of wind rippled through, extinguishing the candles, plunging them into suffocating darkness. As he brought the blade closer to his skin, a voice echoed within him, drowning out the chanting. You will lose them. You will never return. With a guttural scream, he plunged the dagger into the wood of the table, embedding it with purpose. I face what haunts me. The air electrified. The shadows screeched in protest, warping and grinding against the walls. But something shifted in that darkness. A figure emerged, small and haunting, features hidden in the pitch black. And in that breathless moment, the mirror cracked fully, revealing another world behind it, one twisted, dark, and filled with shadows of familiar faces. Mark staggered back, dread pooling in his veins as the figure stepped forward, heart-stopping recognition dawning upon him. Mama, it whispered, the faint voice echoing with a chilling familiarity. His heart stopped. How could this be? The storm outside raged furiously, but here, Mark confronted a new terror far worse than any storm. As he stumbled backward, the full weight of that query loomed over him like a fallen knight. Who are you really? But the figure only smiled, a grin wide enough to split its face, revealing teeth as sharp as knives. With every ounce of courage he had left, Mark reared back to confront this new horror. The figure loomed closer, its smile unyielding, stretching to an unnatural width. It was a mockery of kindness, a twisted reflection of the comfort that once filled Mark's warmest memories. Dark laughter, thin like ice, echoed off the walls, wrapping around him like a serpent. Mark's instinct screamed, pushing him toward the door, but the room around him darkened further, stretching the space impossibly. Shadows whipped like furious winds, choking off escape routes, trapping him within the very void he sought to conquer. He felt the dagger's cold weight still clutched tightly in his shaking hand, its purpose now a cruel reminder of his desperation. Why, Mark? The figure's voice was a smooth, sickly caress. You think you can banish me? You think you can save them? It gestured delicately, and the air shimmered, revealing fleeting images of his children lost in the darkness, reaching out, racked with terror. Stop! He yelled, fighting against the swell of memories ready to drown him. You're not my family. You're not her. But the voice only drew closer, the shivers of recognition clawing at the corners of his mind. With every heartbeat, it siphoned away his resolve. Your heart rebels, Mark. It knows the truth. The figure leaned in, the smell of decay growing, wrapping itself around Mark, suffocating him. You didn't try hard enough. You let go, and they're paying for it. They're in my realm now. He staggered back, overwhelmed by the stench of betrayal and despair, holding the cold blade as if it could save him. But as reality twisted, the room bowed and warped like a funhouse mirror, revealing doorways and hallways leading into nothingness. Face your fear, Mark. Mrs. Whitaker's harsh voice pierced through the chaos, commanding yet once again laced with urgency. The lament demands it. Only when you sever the connections to your deepest dread can you truly invoke the power to return to them. But how could he sever what had nested itself so deeply in his heart? Images of laughter were twisted to screams. They were there, just a breath away and yet lost forever. Mark felt a pulse of fury rise within him, fueling his actions. You're a lie. He shouted defiantly at the figure, the dagger shining like a beacon in his hand. You're nothing. You're just a shadow. Suddenly, the room shook violently, and a gust of wind swept through, dislodging the dust of years. The figure momentarily faltered, anger flickering behind its eyes. This was his moment. With a primal scream, Mark plunged forward, wielding the dagger as if attempting to chase the darkness from within himself. But as he lunged, the figure shrieked, the walls bending with sorrow, a mournful wail that echoed deep within his very being. It reared back, fading for a moment, as if recoiling from the very essence of his resolve. "You cannot banish truth," it hissed. "I am what you fear most." Mark charged, trembling and terrified. The world around him swirled, echoing the cries of his children, but he pressed on, feeling hope bloom amidst the despair. Just as the dagger neared the figure, the shadows writhing, revealing glimpses of the reflection behind them, a blinding flash ignited the room, taking him by surprise, forcing him to shield his eyes. When he opened them, he found himself standing in front of the mirror again, the bleak glass offering nothing but an empty void. But this time, he heard a soft, desperate whisper from the mirror's surface, teasing, promising, "You will have to choose again." His heart raced. What had he left unresolved? Mark took a step back, panic retreating into confusion. The shadows had shifted once more, revealing a path he hadn't noticed before, a narrow doorway behind the mirror, pulsating with a soft sigh. Without thinking, he took a step toward it. "Mark!" Mrs. Whittaker's voice broke through the heavy silence, urgent. "You cannot go through there. It's a trap." But he was already drawn to it, all sense of reality bending and threatening to snap. What lay beyond? A choice? A chance? Or another layer of dread? His pulse quickened as he reached for the door handle. The handle felt slick under his clammy palm, almost alive. As he twisted it, uncertainty cloaked him like a shroud. The door creaked open, but a rush of cold air surged through, pushing against him as if trying to pull him back. "This isn't right," he thought, sweat beading at his brow as he stepped through, the air thick with a choking silence that smelled stale, like old books and dust. The room beyond was dimly lit, its walls lined with shadowy shapes. He squinted against the gloom, trying to make out anything familiar. Each breath felt like a silent prayer, echoing in the stillness. Nothing was as it seemed. The atmosphere pulsed with an eerie energy, distorting his senses. He thought he saw fleeting figures at the edges of his vision, darting shadows that vanished when he turned. Were they memories? Or twisted reflections of something far worse? Mark, a voice whispered, low and haunting. It was a voice that danced on the edges of recognition, yet remained unsettling. He could almost hear the cries of his children threaded into the fabric of the air. Panic clawed at him. "You have to choose." The voice pressed, echoing his own desperation. "You know what you must do." He shook his head, clenching the dagger. "Choose." "Choose what?" "I've lost everything." The shadows thickened around him, swirling like a tempest. Out of the darkness stepped figures, no faces, just shapes, clothed in darker shades than the void enveloping him. They reached out, their hands grasping toward him, but he couldn't touch them. They were crying, mouths opening and closing in silent screams, begging for mercy, for release. Each figure mirrored a different moment, a heart-wrenching reminder of who he'd lost. He felt his weight shifting, balancing between grief and fear. In that instant, he understood, this was the lament, the weight of all his sorrows. It wove through the fabric of this shadowy world. "Is this my punishment?" he shouted into the suffocating darkness. "For not saving them?" The figures lunged, pulling him toward a foggy abyss that opened at their feet. Suddenly, he felt overwhelming guilt crashing against him like harsh waves, suffocating, pulling him deeper as the memory of those smiling faces twisted into agony filled his mind. "Mark." Mrs. Whittaker's voice cut like glass. "You must confront them. Only by facing the source of your dread can you break the cycle." He still grasped the dagger tightly and felt a surge of determination. "I want to let you win," he screamed, shaking as he glanced around. The figures drew closer, mouths gaping wide, but he wouldn't cave. With a sudden resolve, he plunged the dagger into the ground. It trembled violently, sending ripples through the atmosphere. The figures screamed as the ground shook beneath them, their forms flickering. And for a second, they paused, their eyes' empty reflections turned pleading, seeming to recognize him. "Face the truth, Mark. They're waiting, but you must decide." The urgency cracked the air like thunder. He could feel a resonance, a piece of him that still sought connection, guidance, resolution. What if they weren't lost forever? What if there was still a chance? He took a deep breath, eyes blazing. "Get back!" he yelled, pushing through the thrumming chaos. "Whatever holds you here, release them." The blade of the dagger glowed, illuminating the darkness, revealing images swirling just beyond comprehension: the house, the rooms, the yard where they played. He thrust the dagger deeper. "No!" The shadows screamed, blurring and twisting even more. The figures fought and writhed, dissolving like mist before the approaching dawn, but would it work? As blinding light erupted from the dagger's edge, breathless doubt clawed at him again. What if he chose wrong? The chamber erupted, light flooding into the corners and pulsing like a heartbeat. In the midst of chaos, he heard a child's voice, a soft, fragile echo. "Daddy?" Mark's heart stuttered. Had he really heard it? Or was it a trick? "Daddy! Please come find us." The world around him cracked ominously. Was this salvation or damnation, in the last moment before? Darkness swallowed him whole, he sensed another choice manifest within the chaos. "No, I have to find them." With that realization, he felt the end draw near. Was he about to plunge into the darkest abyss, or would he uncover a universe of lost chances waiting just beyond the veil? What lay on the other side of that blinding light? The blinding light engulfed him, a searing white that pressed against his eyelids like an iron weight. Mark felt himself slipping, falling, spiraling. But somehow, within that moment of chaos, a strange clarity emerged. His thoughts coalesced, the voices of his children swelling like a tide in his mind. "Daddy!" They called again, voices harmonizing in sweet, desperate chorus. The sound shattered the silence, ringing like a beacon in the void. He focused on it, clinging to their cries, as the light shifted, forcing him into a new reality. He landed hard, the ground uneven beneath him, the world settling into focus. It was the backyard. He stumbled to his feet, disoriented, heart racing. The vibrant colors of late afternoon burst around him, a stark contrast to the shadows he had just escaped. But something felt wrong. The familiar white picket fence stood warped and crooked. The swing creaked eerily, swaying as if someone had just vacated it. "Mark," a voice breathed from behind him. It was a whisper wrapped in warmth, but it grew colder as he turned. The figure was familiar but distorted, an echo of his wife, eyes hollowed, lips twisted into a pained smile. "You found us, Rachel?" He managed, stepping back, confusion pulling him in different directions. Fear clawed at his throat as he remembered the last time he had seen her. "We need to leave this place, Mark. It's not safe here." A sudden chill wrapped around him. "Where are the kids? What's happening?" His heart raced as a sense of foreboding began to thrum painfully in his chest. "Follow me," she cajoled, but her glow flickered. The garden around him darkened, leaves rustling in a frantic wind that seemed to whisper secrets of despair. Mark felt the dagger still clutched in his palm, an anchor to a reality that felt increasingly unreal. As he followed her deeper into the yard, the colors bled into muted grays. The vibrant flowers wilting, the sun dimming. "Please, come back." The voices echoed again, this time shrill, clawing at the edges of his sanity. "Daddy, help us. Help!" Mark shouted, despair coursing through him like poison. His eyes darted around, seeking the laughter he remembered, the innocent giggles that once filled this space. But it was only shadows now, creeping from beneath the porch, snaking around the corners of his vision. Rachel's figure beckoned him, but she grew more translucent, her voice fading in and out. You must choose, Mark. You must set things right. The echoes of his children grew louder, a cacophony of cries swimming in his head, twisting with their memories. Each pleading call cut deeper than the last, a chain of despair that felt like binding ropes, pulling him into the darkness rising within. No! He screamed, clutching the dagger tightly. The memories twisted and morphed into the grotesque shapes of the figures from his previous nightmare. They loomed, clawing toward him, hungry for despair, eager to swallow his will. Face it, Mark. Face your reckoning. A chorus rang out. He felt a rumble beneath his feet, the earth trembling as he was drawn toward a gaping chasm that had sprung open at the far end of the yard. A dark void beckoned, promising release but pale with malice. Not again. He shouted, panic rising like bile. Each step back felt burdensome, the shadows dancing closer. I won't let you take them again. With a wild surge of courage, he lifted the dagger high. The light flickered, backed by a surge of energy he hadn't expected. I will find them. I will bring them back. The air crackled with tension, a choice on the edge of destruction. He could feel it, everything hanging by a thread. The deeper he plunged his resolve, the louder that childlike laughter rang out, an echo from beyond the veil of despair, but as he prepared to charge forward, he noticed a flicker in the chasm, shadowy forms reaching up, no longer figures of pity, but manifestations of anger, the source of his dread. Mark, they whispered, melding into a single roiling mass of darkness. What will you sacrifice? The moment hovered, a fragile balance between hope and despair. The dagger hummed, resonating with an ancient call. If he chose wrong, he would plunge into that abyss, possibly never to return. Will you confront your fears, or will you submit? As shadows beckoned, Mark inhaled sharply, feeling the weight of his next decision pressing against his chest like a vice. Could he truly find his children in this netherworld? Would he have the strength to face the darkness rising within? With the echo of their laughter haunting his thoughts, he felt the finality of his choice descending. And in that moment, darkness closed in, and Mark took a step forward, into the unseen. What awaited him on the other side of that chasm, he dared not imagine. But he had no choice now, had only the sound of his children's voices to guide him. Would he break the curse or become yet another lost shadow? Mark stepped into the chasm, the void swallowing him whole. A suffocating darkness enveloped him, pressing down like a heavy lead blanket. He could still hear the frantic echoes of his children, their voices clinging to the edges of his mind, urging him forward. Fear enveloped him, but hope flickered like a candle in the storm. Daddy! Help us! The shouts were desperate, echoing louder amidst his racing thoughts. The dagger in his hand pulsated with a strange warmth, almost alive, as he plunged deeper into the darkness. Suddenly, a sharp light broke through the abyss, and he found himself standing in the center of a hauntingly familiar room. It was his children's playroom, untouched by time, the walls painted in cheerful colors. Yet it pulsed with an unsettling energy. Shadows loomed in every corner, stretched and distorted as if playing tricks on his eyes. Where are you? He cried out, sweat slickening his palms around the dagger. The air felt thick with anticipation, and he could hear soft giggles interspersed with cries filtering through the walls. The sound was both alluring and chilling. Daddy! A little voice chimed, and Mark spun around, heart thumping violently in his chest. His daughter, Lily, stood at the far end of the room, her small figure bathed in an eerie glow. Her hair floated as though tethered to some unseen force. Lily! He rushed towards her, but as he reached out, her image flickered like a dying flame. Wait! Help us, Daddy! She whimpered, the vibrant colors fading around her. Mark felt the walls closing in, shadows swirling and twisting, whispering secrets he wasn't ready to hear. Then he heard another voice, older and heavier. You have to choose, Mark, it droned. It was Rachel, but twisted, fragmented, part mother, part specter. The playroom morphed, dark tendrils creeping over the walls, threatening to pull everything down into oblivion. "What will you sacrifice?" "No!" he bellowed, rage fueling him. He gripped the dagger tighter, its cold metal contrasting with his heated resolve. "I won't lose them again." Lily's form distorted, horror stretching her tiny features. "You have to save us, but someone has to stay. Panic coursed through him. "I will never leave you. I will always fight." As he screamed, the shadows grew restless. The atmosphere crackled with tension as wisps of darkness coiled around his limbs like snakes. He could feel their cold seep through the fabric of his clothes, into his very skin, each touch a chill of despair. "Mark, listen." Rachel's ghostly form wavered, now closer, her sorrowful eyes locked onto his. "You must confront the source. The dagger, it's the key. But you have to open your heart and face what's trapped inside." "Face what?" Mark shouted, anger boiling within like magma. The shadows ricocheted off the walls, a cacophony of wails and whispers filling the air, a tormenting symphony of what might become. "The darkness, your own fear. Your failure to protect them." The memories surged, flooding his mind. The accident that tore them away, the moment everything shattered. Tears spilled down his cheeks, a mix of rage and helpless grief. "I should have been better. Face it." Rachel's voice rose with urgency, the shadows rippling with her emotion. "You have to face yourself." With determination, Mark squeezed his eyes shut, imagining the warmth of his children's laughter, the happy moments interwoven with chaos. Did he have the strength to confront the guilt? The dagger pulsed, syncing with his heartbeat, a lifeline in the suffocating dark. Each pulse resonated with his children's laughter, growing louder, clearer, piercing the veil of despair. "Come back to us," Lily pleaded. He opened his eyes, seeing not just shadows but creeping vines of regret, reaching out, trying to drag him under. The choice loomed in the air, heavy with darkness. Would he face his fears and reclaim his family, or would he remain captive, chained to memories? "Enough!" he yelled with new strength. "I won't submit to the void." With a wild swing of the dagger, he slashed through the air towards the gathering darkness. Light exploded from the blade as the shadows recoiled, staggering back with a chorus of anguished groans. Mark felt a rush of energy flow through him, his heart racing as he stepped into the fray. Would they emerge, or would their pleas be swallowed whole by despair? The path to redemption was barely visible through the chaos, and as he charged forward, he wondered if he was racing toward the light or deeper into the dark abyss. The laughter echoed again, this time stronger, a siren's call urging him onward. Would he find them before it was too late, or was the abyss ready to devour him whole? Mark charged into the darkness, the dagger lighting a path before him. The shadows twisted and moaned, their shapes almost human, as if the fear of those lost lingered in this cursed space. He felt a cold draft sweep through, wrapping around him like icy fingers, whispering threats that clawed at his mind. "Daddy!" Lily's voice shattered through the gloom again, crystal clear, yet laced with despair. "You need to hurry." He could see her now, flickering in and out of view, her little face a mask of terror. Each flicker sent a dagger of pain through his heart. It was her, yet it felt wrong. The shadows danced around her, bending her form into something grotesque. He wanted to scream, to shatter the illusion, but instead, he pressed forward, heart pounding in his chest like a war drum. "Stay close, Lily," he shouted, desperation coating his voice. But with every step he took, the room warped. The cheerful colors twisted to black and white, like an old photograph fading into memory. He lunged for her, but the shadows stretched out their tendrils, blocking his way. They twisted, pulsating, closing in like a noose. "No! Get away!" Mark swung the dagger wildly, its light splitting the air. The shadows recoiled, hissing, but not retreating completely. They seemed more alive now, more aware of him, as if they had a will of their own. The laughter morphed, becoming sinister, echoing off the walls. It was no longer the innocent giggle of his children but a mocking cacophony that clawed at his sanity. "Help us, Daddy!" Lily cried, the urgency in her voice mingling with the shifting sounds of sorrow. "Shut up!" Mark screamed at the shadows, swinging the dagger again. Their responses were a swirling vortex of disarray. The air thickened, pressing against him, slowing his movements as he felt something grasping at his legs, dragging him down. His breath came in ragged gasps, panic clawing up his throat. The chains of guilt bound tighter around him. "Is this your fight, Mark? To save those who are already lost?" Rachel's voice echoed, chilling as frostbite. "Stop. Just stop." He didn't know if he was shouting at her or at the shadows that sought to engulf him. The line between reality and nightmare blurred again as sight and sound distorted. Suddenly, he was pulled back to that fateful day, the twisting metal, the cries, the aching silence that followed. The shards of pain burrowed deeper, and he racked with sobs, his heart fracturing beneath the weight of his failures. Yet the dagger in his hand burned fiercely, rejecting despair. "I can do this!" he yelled, rallying his strength. He had fought against the void before, and he would not let it win. With a surge of resolve, he thrust the blade into the ground, sending a shockwave of light bursting forth, illuminating the room. The shadows shrieked, a dissonant wail vibrating through the very walls. In that blinding light, he caught glimpses of his children, caught in the remnants of a playtime they never escaped. "Daddy!" The shout rang clearer, almost tangible. The glow illuminated their faces, distorted yet achingly familiar. Would they remain trapped in this nightmare forever, or could he pull them back? "Just hold on!" Mark shouted, again gripping the dagger, letting its warmth seep into him. "Face your fear!" Rachel cried, urgency igniting his senses. Memories crashed over him, the good, the loving moments mixed with the bleakest darkness. He had to accept it all. The shadows raged around him, but they were losing their hold as the light surged with greater ferocity. Would he finally break the chain? Would accepting his failures release his children from this purgatory? As the shadows writhed and twisted in their final throes, Mark steadied himself. He took a breath, feeling his heart race, a surety rising within him. This moment could either be his salvation or his doom. Could he truly face himself and pull his family back from the brink? He raised the dagger once more, ready to plunge it into the heart of despair. "Together!" he yelled, tapping into that last vestige of hope. But just then, the ground below him trembled. With a thunderous crack, the floor gave way, and Mark plummeted into the darkness. As he fell, the echoes of his children's laughter and cries harmonized, creating an eerie symphony that threatened to devour him whole. Would light follow him into the depths, or would he descend into a darker oblivion? Mark's body tumbled through the inky abyss, the ground beneath him vanishing like a mirage. The cacophony of laughter twisted into a sinister harmony, echoing in his ears, gleefully mocking his descent. Panic clawed at his throat as he plummeted, weightless yet heavy with dread. As he fell, time melted away. The shadows slipped around him like a cool fog, whispering secrets he couldn't decipher. "Daddy!" Lily's voice echoed from the depths. Each frantic cry pierced through the darkness, filling him with duality, a mix of hope and terror. The void embraced him, but he could not let it win. He gripped the dagger tightly, its warmth intermingling with the chilling air. "Hold on, kids," he shouted into the blackness, his voice firm against the sea of shadows. With a sudden jerk, Mark landed hard on what felt like a cold, damp floor. Pain shot up his legs, but he pushed it down. The cavern was vast and dimly illuminated, the walls covered in grotesque carvings that seemed to shift and writhe like the very shadows surrounding him. "Help us!" The echoes of his children's voices reverberated, stretching into eerie dissonance. The designs in the stone looked like faces, twisted in anguish, a gallery of the damned. His heart lurched. Were these the lost souls? Were they the victims of this cursed place? Mark stood, forcing himself to focus. He needed a way out. He had to find Lily and his son, Ethan. The memories surged like a tidal wave: field days, laughter, ice cream cones, then a crash and a void that stole everything from him. Ahead, a flicker of light caught his eye. He stumbled toward it, desperate. It got brighter as he approached, but so did the whispering shadows trailing behind. "You want to find them," they hissed, their voices a cacophony of sorrow and despair. "Get away!" he shouted, swinging the dagger at the dark tendrils creeping nearer. The blade sliced through the air, creating sparks of light that held the shadows back for a heartbeat. But then they regrouped, only angrier now. Suddenly, the light expanded into a doorway, illuminating a scene he couldn't believe. Lily and Ethan stood just beyond the threshold, safe yet trapped. Their faces were washed out, like a photograph left in the sun too long. They reached out, love emanating from their small forms, but something dark lurked behind them, creeping, pulsing shadows, ready to drag them back. "Daddy!" Lily cried, her tiny hands reaching. Ethan's face bore an expression of rugged innocence, as though he was trapped in shock. "I'm coming." Mark felt tears well up, despair clawing at him while he fought against the weight pressing him down. The dagger surged with heat, guiding him. He rushed forward, but the shadows fought back. "They're gone," they taunted. "Let them stay. They belong to us now." "No. I will not lose them," Mark roared, feeling a surge of strength. He took another step toward the doorway, and the shadows recoiled slightly, sensing his determination. "Together!" he yelled, channeling all his memories of joy, love, and the moments that made his heart swell. With a fierce thrust, he plunged the dagger into the ground, and the light erupted, fierce and blinding. The shadows shrieked, their forms unraveling under the luminous wave. But as he surged forward, something cold clasped around his wrist, a shadow with an iron grip, yanking him back. "You can't escape!" it snarled, dragging him back toward oblivion. "Lily! Ethan!" Panic washed over him as he felt himself being pulled, the light flickering. In this final moment, he realized the truth. This was not just a physical battle, it was a battle for his soul, for release from the burdens he carried too long. Could he truly let go, face his guilt, and embrace the light? As he struggled against the icy grip, time froze. The dagger vibrated with energy. He had one chance left. And suddenly, the whispers of his past filled his mind, pushing him toward a decision that could save his family or doom them all. Would he choose to fight, or would he succumb to the shadows? Mark struggled against the icy grip, his heart racing as the shadows pressed in closer. "Let them go!" he shouted, feeling the darkness swallowing the hope he clung to. The shadows twisted and writhed around him like a sea of malevolence, yet within that chaos, he heard her voice again, Lily's innocent call ringing like a bell from the other side of despair. "Daddy!" she cried, her hands outstretched, reaching for him through the murky veil. In that moment, something clicked in Mark's mind. The darkness wasn't just an enemy, it was his deepest fear, the guilt and sorrow he refused to confront. It thrived not on his children, but on his own weakness. "You don't own me!" Mark roared, feeling a flame ignite within him, brighter than any darkness could smother. He tightened his grip on the dagger, the cold metal now pulsing with warmth, resonating with his burgeoning courage. "I choose to fight. I choose love." With a fierce thrust, he drove the dagger into the ground once more. Light exploded from the blade, bright and powerful, sending crystalline beams piercing through the shadows. The adversarial wrappings cringed back, their anguished howls mixing with the frantic whispers of his children. "Hold on!" he yelled, desperation fueling his determination. "I will save you. We're together in this." Light shimmered, swirling with Mark's unyielding hope, slicing through the gloom like a beacon. He could feel the walls rumbling, weakening, and beneath him, the shadows began to collapse. However, the cold grip tightened, it wanted him back in its fold. Mark let it go. A voice echoed through the turmoil, almost familiar. He looked behind him to see a faint silhouette, a spectral image of Rachel struggling within the fray. You have to free yourself to save them. Each pulse of the dagger matched the beat of his heart, with each surge, clarity washed over him. If he let his guilt go, he could find a way back to them. It was always about facing what haunted him, accepting that he could not save them from fate, but he could bring them home. Never again. He screamed, summoning all his resolve. He closed his eyes, picturing the radiant moments of joy, Lily dancing in the garden, Ethan's laughter echoing in the living room, the warmth of family cuddled on the couch. Tears streamed down his face, not of sorrow but of fierce determination. I won't let you take them. I won't let you take me. With one final surge of energy, Mark thrust the dagger deeper, feeling the roots of despair unravel. Light erupted with blinding brilliance, consuming every inch of shadow around him, illuminating the room in a kaleidoscope of color. As the brightness pierced through the dark, he felt the shackles of his fears snap one by one. The shadows wailed and howled, twisting beyond recognition until the very fabric of their existence started to tear apart. No! They shrieked, retreating as the light drew closer to his children. Daddy! Their voices rang clearer now, vibrating with warmth that echoed through the chaos. In an instinctive rush, he dashed towards the threshold, the dagger's warm light pulling him through. As he crossed the boundary, the world shifted dramatically. Mark stumbled and fell onto soft grass, the familiar scents and sounds of home engulfing him, washing over him like a tidal wave of relief. Daddy! Lily and Ethan rushed into his arms, their love a lifeline that radiated warmth, piercing through the cold remnants of the shadows. They were whole, alive, and he felt every worry dissolve in their embrace. Where were you? Ethan gasped, nuzzling into his chest. We were so scared. I'm so sorry, he said, clutching them tighter. I'm here. I'm home. Relief surged through him, and for the first time, he felt the heavy burdens lifting, his heart lightening amid their presence. Soft light surrounded them, flickering tendrils of warmth flowing through their once cold space, dissolving the remnants of darkness. Shadows no longer curled at the edges, instead, pure light and peace filled their haven. Another familiar voice wove its way through the dimness, echoing from somewhere in the breeze. You've done it, Mark. Remember this moment. It was Rachel, her smile radiant and full of love, a gentle reminder. Let the light guide you. You've faced your fears. You'll always carry them with you, but you don't have to reside in them. He glanced up at the soft rustling leaves, feeling gratitude wash over him. He understood now. The shadows whispered from fear, but the true truth radiated from love, binding families across time and space, teaching them resilience in moments of struggle. As they stood together, Mark felt a profound sense of closure. He looked into his children's hopeful eyes and embraced the warmth around them. Nothing will ever take us apart again. The shadows had been vanquished at long last, but the real journey had only just begun, one of rebuilding, nurturing, and cherishing each moment unfettered by the past. As the sun began to set, igniting the horizon with hues of gold and crimson, Mark held his children close, no longer afraid. Their laughter danced in the air, entwined with the vibrance of life. They would face whatever came next together. Now it was time to heal, to flourish, and, most importantly, to live. And as the day faded into night, the balance between light and shadow had shifted, casting forever onwards towards hope. This is the moment to show your support. You need to subscribe now so you don't miss out on more exclusive stories like this. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and help others find this tale. Flood the comments section below with your reactions and theories about this gripping conclusion. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this powerful ending. Your support means everything.